7 years after I got pulled into this book with my best friend, she brought me good news. She said if this body dies, we can go back to our world. Right after she said that, she jumped from the tower. Her blood splattered all over her husband's sleeve. The man who was just accusing her of acting was now devastated, completely broken. I walked past him and looked toward the man who was holding their precious darling, gently comforting her. That man is my husband, the emperor of this land. I thought, it's time for me to go home too. The night I watched Chuyu kill herself, I had nightmares all night long. When I woke up, I was drenched in cold sweat, my hands and feet ice cold. The maid serving in the inner chamber heard the noise, lit the lamps right away, and draped a thin quilt over me. But my heart kept racing. What Chuyu said to me during the day kept echoing in my head. She said, Rong Yu, I found the way home. The system said our mission was completed 2 years ago, and once our bodies die in this world, we can leave the story and go home. When she said this, her eyes held a bright light I hadn't seen in ages. In that moment, a flicker of hope lit up inside me too. But soon I fell silent again, because I didn't know if this was real or just Chuyu's fantasy. 2 years ago was a very important turning point. My best friend Chuyu and I got pulled into this world together. The system said we could go home once we finished the story. To complete the mission, Chuyu and I married Xiaoyu, the crown prince, and Xiao Shen, the third prince, and became famous as supported wives in the capital. We supported them all the way, sharing their struggles until they finally succeeded. One became the emperor, the other became a renowned virtuous prince. Everything seemed perfect, but we still couldn't complete the mission. The system said there was one final stage. Chuyu and I were confused, but we just kept living our lives. Luckily, Chuyu and Princess Xiao Shen truly loved each other, and their days were sweet as honey. Though Xiaoyu was the emperor, he never treated me badly. In the Eastern Palace, I was his crown princess. His birth mother was the empress, but she wasn't favored. The late emperor favored the imperial consort and the 9th prince she bore. The crown prince title was the only thing the late emperor ever gave Xiaoyu. Beyond that, not a single word of care or even a glance. As the 9th prince grew up, Yu's position as crown prince became more and more precarious. In the hardest times, though his mother was still alive, apart from his full brother Xiao Shen standing by his side, Xiaoyu only had me. Fortunately, despite all the dangers, Xiaoyu finally made it to the throne. After he took the throne, his first decree was to make me empress. After that, he kept the harem, and no matter how hard the court officials tried to push their daughters in, Xiaoyu wasn't tempted. He respected me, loved me, and didn't want me to suffer. I knew he always resented the late emperor for favoring the consort and neglecting his own wife. Back when we trusted each other, Xiaoyu held my hand and swore he would never become a failed husband and father like the late emperor. But in the end, he broke his promise. After all that suffering, our peaceful days only lasted a year. A year after Xiaoyu took the throne, their childhood sweetheart, Princess Anping, who was sent away for a political marriage, came back. It seems every man has a first love he couldn't have in his youth, and the Xiao brothers were no exception. The current Empress Dowager didn't just have these two princes. She also had a little princess named Jinyu who was born frail because the empress was distressed during pregnancy. She was a little girl the Xiao brothers protected like the apple of their eye since childhood. But when the late emperor wanted someone to marry into the grasslands, he chose the little princess. She was already weak, the journey to the grasslands was long, she probably couldn't survive it. In the end, it was Princess Anping, who grew up with them, who went before the emperor and volunteered to go to the grasslands for the marriage. Even so, the little princess didn't survive that winter. The Xiao brothers' guilt with nowhere to go was doubled and given to Anping, who went in her place. Now that Anping was back in glory, she was destined to be cherished by the two most powerful men in the capital. At first, Xiaoyu held himself back pretty well. The first to lose his mind was Prince Xiao Shen. The palace banquet that day was held to welcome Princess Anping back. But someone had to open their mouth and gossip about the princess in front of everyone, saying she should have followed the grassland custom and married the new king after the old one died, but now she's been sent back. How strange. Those words made Princess Anping, who was about to enter, cry. It also completely enraged Xiao Shen, who grew up with Anping. That day, the gentle prince laid hands on someone for the first time. He beat the man, bloody at the banquet. If someone offended the princess, he had 1,000 ways to punish them quietly. But unless he made a big scene like this, it wouldn't calm his rage. He acted like a hothead. He made this scene so everyone would understand that even though Princess Anping had been married and widowed, she was still the person Prince Xiao Shen treasured above all else. Everyone there saw it clearly that day. The prince, always said to dote on his wife, shoved his own princess away when she tried to stop him from fighting over Princess Anping. He pushed Chuyu so hard she fell to the side, and her belly hit the corner of a table. Blood appeared right away. Broken dishes cut her hands. She stared blankly at Xiao Shen, who had sworn to cherish her forever, and lost her first child in a daze. The princess is bleeding. People around gasped, but Xiao Shen acted like he didn't hear, still lost in his fury. Compared to his wife, who supported him all the way, getting hurt right in front of him, he was more worried Princess Anping would be bullied in the future. So he stood guard in front of Princess Anping, faced the guests with their various expressions, and said coldly, "From now on, Whoever dares gossip about Princess Anping is making an enemy of the entire prince's manor. Seeing this, I got up from my seat and immediately ordered my trusted attendant to take Qiu back and call the physician. When Xiao Shen finished his speech, I had just walked up behind him. Xiao Shen. I called his name in a low voice, then slapped him hard across the face when he turned around. I was haunted by nightmares woven from the past for 7 days. When I finally woke up, my body was weak. Xiao Yu sat by the bed watching over me. He looked at me, his eyes slightly red, deep guilt in his expression. But when our eyes met, he looked away guiltily. He knew how deep my bond with Chu Yu was. But he was one of the people who pushed Chu Yu to her death. Chu Yu died on the day he celebrated Anping's birthday with imperial consort honors. Before that, Chu Yu brought out the token Xiao Yu gave her when he took the throne, asking for a divorce decree. But Xiao Yu refused. Even though it was an imperial promise Chu Yu earned by saving his life. But to keep Anping from being blamed for breaking up the devoted prince and his wife, he still chose to block Chu Yu's last way out. When Chu Yu died, her blood stained Anping's dress. She was scared and whimpered as she hid in Xiao Yu's arms. He instinctively held her tight and comforted her gently. Only when our eyes met did Xiao Yu seem to realize the woman, who just died horribly, had once risked her own safety to help him when she had nothing. Xiao Yu let go of Anping. And though he was the emperor, he looked lost. He wanted to say something, but I ignored him. I just walked slowly forward and gently wiped the blood from Chu Yu's face with my sleeve. Then I took the token from around her neck. Wait a bit longer. What they owe us, I'll collect before I leave. Chu Yu and I grew up in the same orphanage. She was always carefree, able to ignore pain too easily, so she could make herself at home anywhere. But I'm different. I've always been petty and always settle scores. I clenched my fist and held back my rage. Without looking at anyone, I turned and left. I left Xiao Yu behind, from beginning to end. I didn't say another word to him. From that day on, I shut the palace gates and fell seriously ill. Now, Xiao Yu sat beside me, looking lost as he watched me. He tried to reach out and brush the hair from my forehead, but lowered his hand under my cold gaze. Don't you need to go comfort Princess Anping? I couldn't help but mock him. And the person who gets scared into tears just from someone talking loudly in front of her. After all, Chu Yu, who saved your life, only lost her life, but she was terrified. Xiao Yu seemed choked by my words, and after a long pause, showed a bitter smile. Empress, don't be like this. In the past, whenever he called me that, I would remember my position and give him an out like he wanted. But this time, I said nothing. I just met him with silence. Didn't get the considered understanding he expect. And after a long time, he tried a second sentence. Anping didn't mean it. I already punished her with house arrest. I didn't even want to hear the sentence through, and grabbed the medicine bowl beside me and threw it at him. The black medicine stained his dragon robe. Get out. I was brief. This was the first time I'd ever been so disrespectful to him in front of others. The palace servants around us knelt in terror. Xiao Yu's expression shifted. Finally, he stormed out in anger. After Xiao Yu left, someone else came to see me. It was Xiao Shen. As a prince, he shouldn't be allowed in the inner palace. But Xiao Shen had lost his. He'd rather be executed than not break in. He said, Chu Yu must have left a message for me. Gurong Yu, tell me. I sat on the throne wrapped in a cloak, looking at the crazed man before me, haggard and disheveled, nothing like the celebrated first gentleman of the capital. Right now, Xiao Shen's eyes were red as he kept demanding. Chu Yu was just acting, wasn't she? She always used tricks like that to get my attention. To hurt Anping. How could she really jump? How could she? That's right. After Anping came back, the sweet days Chu Yu and Xiao Shen once shared were gone forever. Unlike me, who never gave my heart from the start. That foolish girl really fell in love with Xiao Shen. A gentle, charming young prince, falling for the girl who came out of nowhere to save him seemed natural enough. So when she lost her first child, she cried all day. At first, Xiao Shen felt terribly guilty and stayed by her side, constantly repenting and swearing it would never happen again. But then, Princess Anping visited the manor, deliberately bringing up a dead child to provoke Chu Yu, and Chu Yu lost control and slapped her. After Princess Anping went back, she tried to hang herself, but was saved by the servants. From then on, the person Xiao Shen kept company changed from Chu Yu to Anping. The child was my fault. If you're angry, take it out on me. Anping never meant to hurt you. You ruined her reputation and made everyone judge her. She's already suffered so much. Chu Yu, we owe this to Anping. From then on, Xiao Shen kept saying things like that and drifted further from Chu Yu. The man who used to face the reckless Chu newly arrived in this change, with a smile tapping her head with his folding fan, then patiently teaching her, who would gently bandage her wounds when Chu Yu got hurt, who would stand up for her without hesitation when Chu Yu was framed by noble ladies. That young prince seemed to disappear. Anping's schemes against Chu Yu got more obvious, but the blind couldn't see it. Now he knelt before me in agony, saying I just didn't want more regrets. I was too weak back then. Couldn't protect Jin Yu. I just hoped I could protect Anping now. That's all it was. Why wouldn't Chu Yu trust me? Aren't we husband and wife? Why wouldn't she understand me? At that, I laughed out loud. How dare you call yourself her husband? You forgot. Chu Yu asked for a divorce from you a year ago. Xiao Shan jerked his head up, eyes full of suspicion as he stared at me. Gu Rongyu, what did you do? As soon as he finished speaking, the voice of the Imperial Messenger arrived. It was an edict from Xiao Yu, this time. He accepted the token and agreed to Chu Yu's request for divorce before her death. Now the prince and his wife are divorced, the princess regains her freedom. She'll be buried as a respectable woman, not sharing a tomb with the Xiao Shan. I sat in the seat of honor, looking mockingly at Xiao Shan. What husband and wife? From the moment you stopped trusting her, you lost the right to be her husband. I stared into his eyes and said slowly, as for Chu Yu's final moments. She didn't mention you once. You thought she was putting on a show for you, but in her heart, you were already nothing. Xiao Shan went mad and was dragged away by the guards. I leaned back wearily in my chair, my gaze drifting to the shadows where Xiao Yu stood. Is this your compensation? You know this isn't what I want. I looked at him, my voice icy. Chu Yu lost her life. The one responsible should pay with theirs. Rongyi. Xiao Yu stood in the shadows, weighing his words for a long time. Finally, his voice strained. He said, Anping didn't mean it. He probably didn't believe it himself, but he still chose to protect Anping, deceiving himself. Xiao Yu probably didn't realize that when he looked at Anping, his eyes held a tenderness he never showed anyone else. He suppressed his wild love, just to keep his promise of loyalty. Too bad he failed at both. In that instant, I felt utterly exhausted and slumped down. I said, I get it, get lost. Xiao Yu froze, apparently stung by my state. His eyes showed confusion and unfamiliarity. Before, to be the perfect consort for the crown prince, I always acted gentle and magnanimous. In tender moments, he'd hold me and say, having a wife like you is my blessing. Now that I know how to return home, I don't need to hide my true nature anymore. I said, Xiao Yu, you can't bear to kill her, you feel you owe her. So you pay your debt with your benefactor's life. That's pathetic. Those words were treasonous. Xiao Yu's face darkened. Empress, you've lost your mind. Haixin, yeah, I've lost it. I laughed happily. I walked forward slowly and touched his face. I said, Xiao Yu, I'm dying soon too. I don't want you anymore. That day, he practically fled from Weiyang Palace. So he didn't hear my last words. I said, I'm dying, so none of you get to live happily either. I've never been generous. I care about everything, feelings and possessions. I only believe in equal exchange. I never easily trust so-called true love between men and women. Even before, Xiao Yu and I had what could be called a model marriage, even by modern standards. Though he's an ancient feudal emperor, he promised me a lifetime with just one person. He respected and loved me like an ordinary husband would. He never acted like an emperor around me. Everyone said I was incredibly blessed to have the emperor's devotion. But I knew his promise of monogamy was because he wanted to break from his father. He respected and treated me well because I stood by him in his darkest days and solved crisis after crisis for him. His faithfulness was for himself. His kindness was something I earned. All these years, I played the role of his ideal wife. Virtuous, magnanimous, brave, and smart. He was satisfied, I saved effort, that's all. Even though Xiao Yu was often grateful for my existence and saw me as closer than family, we never went beyond that. We never spoke of love. He loved someone else, but he didn't want to let me go either. I knew that woman once held an umbrella for him in the rain when they were young and embroidered a pouch for him. He couldn't protect her when he was weak, and it left him with regret. So now he uses the power I helped him gain to spoil her rotten. Xiao Yu knew I'd resent Princess Anping for Chu Yu's death, but he still chose to protect her. He confined her to his own estate. He chose to oppose me. So I won't let them live in peace. Fortunately, during those 2 years when the plot prevented me from acting against Anping, I collected plenty of evidence for settling scores later. I picked one piece and had it sent to Xiao Shen. It was a servant contract from their household. Shen must remember her. Her name was Hang Xiao. She came from poverty. Just before being sold to a brothel, Chu Yu bought her and brought her into her household. Back then, she was so grateful to Chu Yu, calling her a saint who saved her life. Chu Yu didn't know how to respond to all that gratitude. But later, she was the one accusing Chu Yu of mistreating servants. So out of resentment, she poisoned Chu Yu, killing their unborn second child. By then, Chu had already lost all hope. She had no thoughts on how to punish the servant. By coincidence, Princess Anping was visiting and in righteous fury, decided for her, ordering Hang Xiao beaten to death on the spot. A crude setup. Anyone thinking clearly could see who was behind it. But Xiao Shen's suspicion stopped at Hang Xiao. He didn't want to dig deeper. He just comforted Chu Yu with lies, saying they'd have another child. How could they? By then, Chu Yu had given up on Xiao Shen. She knew even if it wasn't Hang Xiao, someone else would harm her baby. She never wanted to carry Xiao Shen's child again. She just used the opportunity. Now I gave Hang Xiao's contract to Xiao Shen. It recorded Hang Xiao's hometown and family information. If Xiao Shen investigated, he'd find they were all dead. Someone silenced them all in one night. With Xiao Shen's abilities, finding the culprit wouldn't be hard. It just depends on when someone deceiving themselves is willing to wake up. This time, Xiao Shen acted fast. When she was alive, she pleaded her innocence 1,000 times. But he never saw the truth. Now, it took him only 3 days to uncover everything. Ridiculous that Chuyu suffered 2 years of torment because of this. That night, the prince's manor was lit all night long. He sat at his desk with all the evidence, counting every injustice Chuyu had suffered over the years. The prince, facing for the first time how he'd failed as a partner, turned half his black hair white in one night. At dawn, when the rooster crowed, Xiao Shen grabbed his sword and left. People said he'd gone mad, he'd just been punished by the emperor. Now he was causing another scene. He charged straight to the princess's mansion with his sword. The whole capital witnessed it. Princess Yanping, whom he once treasured, was disheveled. The prince chased her from her home. She ran barefoot through several streets, all the way to the palace gates. Her always pristine white dress was now dirty and splattered with mud. Her usually pitiful face showed only terror and rage. Finally, she fell at the palace gates. Xiao Yu rushed out when he got the news, but he was still a step too late. Xiao Shen cut off Princess Yanping's long hair with one stroke of his sword. One more step and the blade would slice through her soft neck. Why, I never wronged you, yet you destroyed my family. Xiao Shen's voice was hoarse as he demanded an answer. I didn't, how can you misunderstand me like this? She was the first to cry, as if she'd suffered a terrible injustice. But Xiao Shen no longer believed her. He closed his eyes and raised his sword, wanting to die. Wei Yanping. But a sharp shout stopped him. Prince, what are you doing? Xiao Yu stepped out from behind the imperial guards. Your Majesty, Yu is dead. I should avenge her. Xiao Shen looked at Xiao Yu and smiled in despair. But Xiao Yu just laughed coldly. He said, what does Chu Yu's death have to do with Yanping? It was your own suspicion that made you stop trusting her. You disappointed her. You doubted her but wouldn't set her free. The one who killed Chu Yu was always you. By now, he understood everything. But when he rejected Chu Yu's divorce petition, he said it was all because Chu Yu was overthinking things, that Xiao Shen had never wronged her. In the end, he couldn't bear to see his brother so defeated. Xiao Yu softened his third brother Yanping may have been troublesome and caused Yu's discord. But you must know she never meant to harm anyone. She's Jin Yu's savior. He didn't finish because Xiao Yu saw me walking through the crowd. His face went pale. Those twisted excuses stuck in his throat. He couldn't say another word. So he could feel shame after all. Recovering from illness, I arrived surrounded by palace attendants, looking weary. My eyes swept past him and landed on his waist. I suddenly smiled softly. The pouch I embroidered for His Majesty before, does His Majesty still wear it every day? Caught off guard by my question, Xiao Yu looked dazed for a moment. Then his voice turned gentle and warm. It's the Empress's gift. Of course I never take it off. That pouch was something he asked me for when we first married. Before, he only wore Yanping's pouch after our wedding. To show his loyalty, Xiao Yu asked me for one to replace it. Even though my embroidery wasn't very good, he treasured it and wore it every day with great care. Remembering the past, Xiao Yu's face showed a hint of nostalgia. The next moment, Yanping's tearful gaze turned to Xiao Yu's face. Her voice full of grief, she called to him softly, Your Majesty, elder brother, it hurts. That one tender elder brother pierced Xiao Shen instead. Before, whenever Yanping and Chu Yu argued, she'd always call him that. That tone, so much like Jin Yu's, always made him soften. Elder brother, it was for this elder brother that I could even deceive my own heart. His hand touched Yanping's face, his eyes glowing clear. So you can't replace Jin Yu at all. Jin Yu wasn't this vicious, yet because of a venomous woman like you, I hurt the one I loved. I didn't beg you to. You're the one who threw yourself at me, you lunatic. Princess Yanping finally snapped, shoving Xiao Shen away violently. Then she grabbed her skirt and ran toward Xiao Yu like a bird to its nest. Lunatic, throwing himself at her, Xiao Shen didn't chase her. He just stood there, savoring those words, stumbling back 2 steps, then threw his head back and laughed. I'm not just a lunatic, I'm the biggest fool in the world. His sorrowful gaze swept over the crowd and landed on me. Gurong Yu, I finally see it. Jin Yu's memorial tablet wasn't destroyed by Chu Yu. Yanping framed her. That winter at the palace banquet, Yanping jumped into the water herself. Chu Yu didn't push her. And her beloved cat was killed by Yanping too. And our child. I finally see it all, but my Yu can never come back. As he spoke, overcome with grief, blood trickled from his lips. Xiao Shen didn't care. His voice choked with sobs. One by one, piece by piece, he recounted how he and Chu Yu grew apart. Those heartbreaking memories turned that girl with the bright smile hollow and hopeless. In the end, she stood on that high platform, gripping my hand tightly, her voice resolute. She said, Rong Yu, we have to go home. Then, she let go of me and turned to fall from the platform. Only now did he feel regret. Prince, watch your words. Finally, Xiao Yu lowered his voice and warned him sharply. Even now, he still protected Yanping's reputation. Your Majesty, you knew everything all along. Why won't you wake up? Do you have to lose the Empress like I lost you before you're satisfied? Xiao Shen grew agitated. He rushed forward, trying to grab Xiao Yu. But something he said struck a nerve in Xiao Yu. He laughed coldly and slapped Xiao Shen across the face. Xiao Shen's head snapped to the side. After a long while, he came to his senses and slowly smiled at Xiao Yu. Imperial brother, I once received a favor from you together with Chu Yu. Now I wish to use it. He looked straight at Xiao Yu and spoke word by word. I want to use this favor to ask for Princess Anping's hand in marriage. I refuse. Hearing this, Anping sobbed and reached out to grab Xiao Yu's sleeve. Brother, please, he'll kill Anping. Xiao Yu remained silent, and the scene reached a standstill. Imperial brother, you've already witnessed my end. I don't want you to have regrets. Even at this moment, he was still planning for his brother. But Xiao Yu wasn't grateful. He looked grim and said nothing. In the end, he turned his troubled gaze toward me. I sneered and turned to leave. But Xiao Shen called out to me. He said, Gu Rongyi, I saw her in another world. I turned around in shock and saw him looking straight into my eyes. I saw her in a dream. She was smiling so happily in another world. Then you changed the subject and asked me, what is a conquest? Can Chu Yu come back? At this, I smiled and answered Xiao Shen. The dead can't come back, but I can tell you what a conquest is. Just need to trade her life for it. I slowly pointed at Princess Anping. As if he didn't expect I still wouldn't spare her, Xiao Yu sounded displeased. He said, Rongyu, as the empress, you can't always be so unreasonable. Anping hid behind him, peeking out at me. A mocking smile curved her lips. So pathetic. She was mouthing the words at me silently. I wasn't about to indulge her. I pulled out the guard sword beside me and swung it straight at her sneering face. My sudden outburst caught everyone off guard. By the time they reacted, most of Princess Anping's right ear had been sliced off, blood gushing instantly. A piercing scream rang out as she fell to the ground, blood staining her snow-white garment. I looked at her and suddenly laughed. Now you're the crippled one. You're more pathetic. Anping looked up in shock, her eyes full of venom. Too bad I couldn't make a second strike. Xiao Yu grabbed my wrist and knocked the sword from my hand. Empress. Xiao Yu was furious, his gaze dark as water. Meeting his eyes, I suddenly grinned. Then I grabbed his collar and suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. This body was already drained, with my emotions running high. The blood from my mouth wouldn't stop. I steadied myself against Xiao Yu, fighting my fading vision. The moment I caught sight of the pouch at his waist being soaked in blood, and the purple glow rising from it, I finally felt at ease. I said, goodbye Xiao Yu. He didn't know that at this moment, his life had been sentenced to death. I wanted to say more cruel words, but my heart really hurt. Who would have thought these 4 short words would make the emperor panic? He frantically reached out to wipe the blood from my lips. But the more he wiped, the more there was. Finally, he pulled me into his arms, tears streaming down. He said, No, it's my fault. I won't want anyone else. Here, let's not separate. Tisk idiot. I had a dream. It was shortly after Xiao Yu and I got married. Back then Xiao Yu was still the crown prince out of favor with the emperor, with very few supporters at court. Xiao Yu was confined to his residence by imperial order and couldn't leave without permission. He was one step away from being deposed. I went to plead with the Empress Dowager, but she remained cold and unwilling to spend what little affection remained between her and the late emperor. In the end, it was Xiao Shen, trapped in Jiangnan, who uncovered the list of corrupt officials from the flood, and Chu Yu risked his life to bring it back. The day I got the list, I disguised myself and under cover of night, holding this dangerous bargaining chip, negotiated alone with the old ministers who once supported Xiao Yu but now chose to wait and see, finally gaining the support of the late emperor's grand tutor by dawn. Before parting, he frankly told me that all night he'd been debating whether to just kill me and take the list. After all, Xiao Yu had no value then. Throughout that entire night pitch dark without a single star, I'd brushed with death countless times. Fortunately, I succeeded in the end. This old fox who'd navigated officialdom for decades ultimately chose to bet on the most unassuming Xiao Yu. Aren't you afraid of death? He asked me. Women have their place. Why fight like a man? I didn't mind the mockery in his tone. I just lowered my eyes and spoke softly. The Crown Prince is destined for greatness. He has grand ambitions. I must help him achieve them. What's death to fear? Those words were meant to win Xiao Yu over, and they eventually reached his ears. When I returned to the Eastern Palace, he held me tight, like a precious treasure. His voice was thick with emotion as he choked out in my ear. My parents never cared for me. I'm blessed to have you. I lowered my eyes and just gently patted his back to comfort him. That experience was truly dangerous. After it was over, the 4 of us shared wine under the moon. That was the first time I saw Xiao Yu drunk. He lost his usual composure, eyes reddening like a child. He said, Father neglected me, Mother neglected me, so I won't want them. I have Rongyu. From now on, I only want Rongyu. That night he was truly drunk, warmth pooling in his eyes, holding my hand and repeating, Rongyu, let's have a good life together. I looked down at my cup and didn't respond. Just handed him warm tea at the right moment. Okay. Chu Yu beside us slapped the table in agreement. She'd had quite a bit too, slurring her words. We're all here, nothing to fear. Every hardship is just small stuff. To friendship, we're amazing. The young woman raised her cup high. Her cheeks were flushed, but her eyes shone like starlight. Xiao Shen just propped his head up, watching her antics, when Chu Yu finally succumbed to the alcohol and fell asleep at the table. He reached out and gently pulled her into his arms. The moonlight shone into Xiao Shan's eyes, and his gaze toward Chu Yu was unmistakably tender. Chu Yu was eventually carried away by Xiao Shan, while Xiao Yu, emboldened by the wine, asked me for the pouch I'd promised him. After I'd had it on him myself, he smiled contentedly and kissed my fingertips. Actually, that day at the Grand Tutor's residence, there was one exchange that never got out. It was the Grand Tutor's assessment of me. His hawk-like gaze seemed to see right through my virtuous facade. Looking into my soul, he said the Crown Prince probably doesn't know that the woman beside him is the most ruthless and vicious one. Just like he didn't know. In that pouch I gave him, I'd placed poison I'd exchanged from the system. If one day the pouch gets stained with my blood, the poison inside would be activated, slowly consuming whoever wears it day and night. Anyone who takes something from me is never allowed to betray me. When I woke again, my head was splitting. The maid attending me saw I was awake and hurried out to report. In no time, Xiao Yu arrived. He looked haggard, stubble showing on his chin, lips pale. While waiting for him, the palace servants had already told me I'd been unconscious for 7 whole days, and Xiao Yu had stayed by my side the entire time. He'd only just gone to rest a moment ago, but I woke up then. I leaned back against the cushions, listless. Xiao Yu sitting beside me looked equally worn out. The physician says you're severely depleted, your vitality damaged. It's those past days that wore you down. I've wronged you. As he spoke, he reached out to touch my hair. But his hand froze mid-air under my mocking gaze. The smile on Xiao Yu's lips turned bitter. I thought he was going to beg me to spare Anping, to stop dwelling on the past. But what I didn't expect was that Xiao Yu gently embraced me from behind. He said, I'm sending third brother to Luo Zheng. Anping will go with him. Xiao Yu buried his head in my shoulder. This was always his posture when vulnerable. He said, Rong Yu, please don't change. Can we be like before? I didn't answer him. A servant's announcement came from outside the screen. Your Majesty, Princess Anping threw herself into the lake. Like a stone tossed into water, creating a muffled splash before going silent, only stillness remained in the room. Only Xiao Yu's arms around me unconsciously tightened and kept tightening. Finally, late that night, the servants reported again that Princess Anping was unconscious and her life hung by a thread. Oh, you could sit still no longer. He looked at me, full of guilt. Anping is my benefactor after all. I can't abandon her. He said, I'm just going to check on her. Wait for me. Of course he wouldn't return, and I certainly wouldn't wait. After he left, I got up from the bed and walked to the window. A secret letter lay there. The messenger had long since vanished. I unfolded the letter by candlelight. It contained an address. There are indeed hidden talents in this world. After reading it, I burned the letter in the candle flame. Late that night, someone retrieved the token from the second drawer of my vanity. They would take me to meet someone. Xiao Yu didn't return all night. I can guess what happened at Princess Anping's residence. The poor soul pulled from the lake slowly, came to after Xiao Yu arrived. She threw herself into Xiao Yu's arms, crying her heart out, only saying she didn't want to leave the capital, didn't want to leave His Majesty's side. Anping, the prince has promised that as long as you leave with him, he won't hurt you. But Princess Anping refused, crying bitterly. She asked, is it because the Empress can't tolerate me? I just want to stay in my own homeland. Brother, I went to the grasslands alone for you. Don't know which words touched Xiao Yu. Anping and Xiao Shen did end up leaving. But just outside the capital, Anping's carriage lost control, and she plunged off a cliff with the entire carriage. The person known as Princess Anping was completely erased from this world. Prince Xiang didn't believe it and insisted on checking the carriage himself and was dragged down too. Fortunately, his injuries weren't severe, but when he woke up he got mad. He said that as he was dying, he saw the one he yearned for. Prince Xiang stopped attending affairs from then on, wandering like a lost soul every day, finding every way to hurt himself. Because he said that way, he could see his deceased wife. When the news reached the capital, Xiao Yu was watching over me. Hearing it, he just lowered his head and gently blew on the spoon, focused on feeding me the medicine. I knocked the medicine bowl from his hand. He didn't get angry, just calmly refilled another bowl. After I finished the entire bowl, he set it down, avoiding my gaze as if speaking to me, yet also deceiving himself. My feelings for Anping were always just repaying a debt. Rong Yu, you're forever different from others. You're my only wife. You understand me, don't you? He'd already made his decision. I ignored him. Just looked at his lips tinged with dark purple, and laughed. I saw Anping again half a month later. By then she changed identities, becoming an orphan girl serving the Empress Dowager. This empress who had no favor when the late emperor lived after her daughter's death devoted herself wholly to Buddha, ignoring worldly affairs. Now, everyone knew I was bedridden with illness. The inner palace still needed someone in charge. She returned under that pretense, and brought back the people Xiao Yu had sent to her. Xiao Yu was furious. He hated his mother, but had to cooperate with her to settle Anping. The day the Empress Dowager returned to the palace, her son Xiao Yu didn't go to greet her. But the Empress Dowager didn't seem to mind. Years of guarding the imperial mausoleum seemed to have softened her. She had her nanny send a plate of sugar cakes to the emperor. Supposedly she made them herself and kept them warm on a charcoal stove during the journey, afraid they'd get cold. That day, Xiao Yu sat alone in the imperial study. In the end, she never returned that plate of sweet cakes. He didn't have a sweet, but he craved the satisfaction of his birth mother, who once ignored him, making those cakes with her own hands. Just a simple dessert brought tears to his eyes. That night, he sat in my palace for a long time, like he had so much he wanted to tell me, from his childhood grievances to this plate of sweets. But I already knew everything about his past, and I couldn't care less about this dessert. In the end, he just sat there in silence all night. Finally, when the first rays of morning light came in, he said, "Rang Yu, maybe I should let it go." He wanted to let go of past hatred and make peace with his former self, just with a plate of sweets. This life that Chu Yu and I fought to save when his birth mother abandoned him. He easily chose to forgive. I was shocked and looked at him properly for the first time in days. My gaze swept over his increasingly pale and haggard face, and I finally gave my verdict, pathetic. But Xiao Yu didn't think so. He looked at me and spoke in a deep voice. "Rang Yu, I am the emperor." This was the first time he emphasized his status in front of me, to receiving a plate of sweets from his birth mother. After thinking he could grasp the love he lacked as a child, Xiao Yu just like that, without hesitation, betrayed his former self. Finally, he stood up and looked down at me. "Rang Yu, if you keep being so stubborn and refuse to understand me, someone else will." The person who understood him was naturally on the Empress Dowager's side. The maternal love Xiao Yu had craved for over 20 years, though it came late, finally arrived. But that love didn't seem entirely genuine. At least the Empress Dowager never noticed Xiao Yu's increasingly unsteady steps, or his gradually thinning frame. But Xiao Yu was easily satisfied. A plate of cakes, a few caring words, and treasures flowed like water to the Empress Dowager's palace, as if to make up for all the years of absence. In comparison, my side became much quieter and much freer. This day I had just used feeding fish as an excuse to drop the secret letter in my hand into the mouth of a koi in Lingguangpu. When I turned around, I ran into Princess Anping standing behind me. She wore a veil, with loose hair covering her missing half ear. "You're so pitiful." She looked at me and smiled mockingly. I not only stayed but moved into the imperial palace, and His Majesty even allows me to serve before him. He and I are together all day long. Seeing I had no reaction, she stepped closer, her words full of undisguised malice. She said, "You and your friends are all useless trash." Hearing this, I threw out all the fish food in my hand and looked at her. Anping's smile disappeared. I only took one step closer to her, and she trembled all over in fear. But she still didn't back down, glancing toward the shadows, where someone had already quietly left to report to the emperor. As if afraid I wouldn't punish her severely enough, Anping kept provoking with her words. "Your friend is really useless. Just saying a few harsh words about you in front of her, and she got so worked up she wanted to fight. It's laughable how sincerely she treats those two brothers. But in the end, no one trusts her." Also, before she could finish, a crisp slapping sound cut her off. I didn't move, just glanced at the palace servants around me, and someone stepped forward to hold her down. Those serving by my side were all carefully selected, and when they slapped someone, they always swung their arms in full circles. Even though Anping came to provoke on purpose, she was stunned by the beating. "Gerang Yu, you bitch!" Her cheeks swelled high, looking at me with venomous hatred. Smack, another slap, and one of her teeth flew out. Hurried footsteps came from outside the courtyard. Anping looked at me with triumph in her eyes, and the next moment, her tone became pitiful. "Your Majesty saved me." But it wasn't His Majesty who came, it was the head nanny from the Empress Dowager's side. His Majesty collapsed in imperial study day. The Empress Dowager wants you to hurry back and prepare to visit him. After saying this, she acted as if she just noticed, and immediately fell. I looked at Anping with amusement. Her face now showed genuine terror. I didn't attack her further, just looked at the eagle whistle hanging at her chest. "What an interesting trinket," I said. "I heard that before Princess Anping married the Khan of the Grasslands, she received such an eagle whistle as a token of love. There are rumors that before her marriage alliance, she had already pledged herself to the Khan. If true, it would indeed be a beautiful story." The people restraining Anping let go, and she trembled and fell straight to the ground. She looked at me as if she'd seen a ghost, even forgetting to bow. She scrambled up from the ground in a daze and ran. That night, someone delivered a secret message to my hands. The messenger spoke urgently, saying he might be exposed, asking where the surprise attack forces had reached. I thought for a moment, then wrote back, "Nearly at the city gates." The next day Xiao Yu, recovered from his illness, came to my side. He came to defend Anping, now looking at me with complete disapproval. "She's not like you, she's alone and helpless in this palace. Why do you need to make things difficult for her?" "Xiao Yu, stop deceiving yourself," I said. "There aren't that many perfect solutions in this world." Xiao Yu was silent for a long time before speaking to me. "But I am the emperor." This was the second time he emphasized his status in front of me, to announce that to compensate Anping, he had decided to make her his concubine. Before, he most hated how his father used this excuse to justify favoring the imperial concubine and her son. Now, this had finally become his excuse for breaking faith and promises. The trance. His face merged with the features of the late emperor who once called him worthless at the palace banquet. Power always blinds people. I looked at his pale complexion, then thought of those who had secretly entered the capital. I slowly smiled. Xiao Yu was emperor now, but not for much longer. I generally don't let people use the same excuse to provoke me a third time, as if to deliberately pressure me. Yu specially prepared an investiture ceremony for Anping. This was the most glorious moment of her life. She wore fine robes and elaborate jewelry, walking toward the man she admired. She reached out her hand to him. But just as her palms were about to touch, her expression suddenly changed. Anping suddenly pulled a dagger from her sleeve and stabbed viciously toward Xiao Yu's heart. In the past, Xiao Yu could have easily dodged this blade. But now his reactions were half a beat slower than others. And in his panic, the dagger pierced through his arm. Before she could strike again, Anping was subdued by the Imperial Guards, but she showed no fear, blowing the eagle whistle in her hand. After a long time, no one responded. Waiting for your grassland warriors, I smiled, taking out a longbow and speaking softly to her from nearby. You knew everything. Her expression changed instantly. Of course I knew, because I was the one in contact with you all along. I smiled as I spoke, drawing the longbow fully, aiming the arrow at Anping's completely pale face. I said, with just those few spies you brought, you thought you could coordinate from within and seize the city. In the first month, after you planted them, I rooted out every single one of them. And that city defense map you worked so hard to steal is also in my hands. Your grassland cavalry never received any signals. No one will come to save you today. Why? Anping screamed. I flicked my fingers, and an arrow instantly pierced through her abdomen. That's where Chu Yu got hurt first. Because I hold grudges, and I'm pretty nasty. I love watching people fall from grace at their peak. As I said this, I closed one eye and aimed at her calf. Once, she pushed Chu Yu into a lake. He froze both his legs. Another scream rang out. I drew the bow and aimed at her again. Today I'm in a great mood. I couldn't help but smile. I mimicked the sound of arrows with my voice. Whoosh, thwack. Anping trembled in the wind. Covered in blood, she crawled on the ground. She screamed at me. Kill me, just kill me already. I will kill you. You can wait for that. First, I need to collect what's owed. In the end, Anping, hit by 42 arrows, was dragged away. She was thrown into the dungeon. After hours of screaming, she died. Only then did people realize their mighty emperor hadn't said a single word. Looking again, Xiao Yu had collapsed on the ground, completely unconscious. Everyone knew the emperor had fallen gravely ill from being betrayed and stabbed by his beloved concubine. At first, he could still make sounds. He tried to get me to save him. I just smiled and sat there sipping tea. During this time, the Empress Dowager came once. After confirming Xiao Yu was now useless, she didn't hide her disgust. She covered her nose and left. Xiao Yu tried hard to open his mouth, wanting her movement to stop. He could only strain his neck and watch her hurry away. After that day, he could no longer speak. But a nation cannot be without a ruler for a city. So when I brought back the 9th prince from among the common people, Xiao Yu's eyes went wide, his expression was full of rage. Parents who love their children plan far ahead. The late emperor went to great lengths to protect the 9th prince. I also spent a lot of effort to connect with him. As I spoke, I reached out and smoothed Xiao Yu's messy hair. Of course, some parents don't love their children to curry favor with the new emperor. The Empress Dowager thinks you're too much of an eyesore in this palace, so she suggested moving you out. This time, Xiao Yu stopped struggling. His convulsing stopped. The light in his eyes turned to dead water. He just stared at me calmly. After a long while, he closed his eyes. A single tear rolled down. But I smiled and told him to relax. I only want what's mine. I'm not greedy for more. For example, Chu Yu and I once saved his life. Now, he's giving back a healthy body. That's not too much. For example, I fought for his empire. He should return it intact. He couldn't keep his vow. He hurt Chu Yu, who was loyal to him, and he pushed away Xiao Shen, who respected him. Now, he's all alone. He deserves it. Go back to where you came from. Xiao Yu was sent back to his old crown prince mansion. The place had long become desolate, just a pile of ruins. The new emperor ordered him confined here. He cannot leave without a decree. I was in charge of delivering him. Before parting, I told him one last truth. Back then, Anping wasn't pleading for you. She fell for the grassland prince. The two were already in love. It had nothing to do with you. Xiao Yu listened quietly, no reaction. But as I turned to leave, his gaze followed me. His face showed sadness and regret. We won't meet again, Xiao Yu. I said this and walked out the door. Sorry. As the door closed, I thought I heard him choking back sobs. Turning around, I ran into the person I expected. It was the haggard Xiao Shen. He's now obsessed with seeking immortality. He tried to die several times but was saved. He came looking for me on purpose. Meeting again, Xiao Shen stood before me. His eyes fixed on me. He said, I know what a strategy game is now, Gu Rongyu. You approached us just to complete a mission. That's right for me, I shrugged. No comment. But Chu Yu. I remembered that day. Chu Yu looked at me with stars in his eyes. He said, Yu, Xiao Shen truly loves me. I want to stay here for him. Hearing this, Xiao Shen lit up again. A glimmer of hope rose on his face. I know. If the person is willing, they can exchange with the system for a chance to return. He looked at me. He spoke cautiously. And I nodded under his expectant gaze. Of course. But then I changed my tone and smiled. He only wanted to stay for you once. That once was how long ago? Did you think about that? From the moment he jumped off that building, he was never coming back. Know why? Because you're not worth it. I said those last 3 words slowly. Then I left the devastated Xiao Shen behind in high spirits. Not long after, I heard the wise prince threw himself in the river again. He still wouldn't give up. He wanted to find his princess in another world. But this time, he wasn't lucky enough to be saved. By the time they found him, he had already rotted. Let all the young ladies who like romance remember this. A rotten man is not worth keeping. After everything was done, I burned charcoal in the secret room. In my current body, I'll die fast. As I closed my eyes, I saw the scene when I first entered this other world. Back then the 4 of us were always together, enjoying flowers on sunny days, playing flutes under the moon. The people in those scenes, whether sincere or not, always smiled happily. Before the end, I suddenly opened my eyes. With my last bit of strength, I gave orders to the hidden guards outside. If you get the chance, beat up the Empress Dowager. Bah, old hag. How dare she mess with me? I left rolling my eyes. 12. It was like just a dream. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a soft bed. Just as I stretched, Chuyu came running and practically pressed his entire face to my forehead. You baby, you're awake. He grinned at me like an idiot, but his eyes darted around guiltily. I silently got out of bed and started stretching. Seeing this, Chuyu kept backing up. His smile was strained. Let's talk this out. Talk it out, we can negotiate. Really, there's still room for discussion. But I ignored him. I rushed over, grabbed him, and threw him on the carpet. Tell me, are you still gonna be a lovesick fool? I pinned him down. I wanted to poke my fingers straight into his brain. Well, I was wrong. I'll never be a sim for men again. Chuyu covered his face and cried. After a while, he peeked over curiously. You, did you really mess them up? I thought about it and nodded. Pretty much. Oh, Chuyu's voice was muffled, no telling what he was thinking. So it doesn't matter, if he dares say one word about feeling sorry for those men, my hand will fly right to his face. But he didn't have time to feel sorry for men. Chuyu made a more exciting discovery. The system paid us. Our joint account got 30 million added. Chuyu was thrilled, but I frowned. Only 30 million, all that work for just 30 million. Hey, I think 30 million is enough. Babe, where are you going? To settle accounts with the system. It's 30 million again. Chuyu cheered. About right, I thought to myself. Looking at Chuyu's excited smile, the feeling of being alive finally came back completely. I looked at the sunlight streaming through the window. I figured every day from now on would be bright and beautiful.